Good morning, everybody. It's November 9th, 2025, and we got the first snow of the season. Appreciable snow in Calumet, Michigan. So I thought I'd take a little drive around town and I give you a little update. Um, Last spring, I had a lot of serious misfortune with everything. Two cars blew up, the trans went out on one, and the flywheel went out on the other. I was looking at about $4,000 or $5,000 in repairs on old cars. And the neighbor lady, and I think her name's Tammy, Mrs. Spagnati, she sold me this very nice Saturn View. And they make them under names like Chevy and all that other stuff. But anyway, I really fell in love with this car. It gets 20 miles to the gallon. It's got a moonroof. It's got a remote start. Now, I've never driven it on snow before, and it's got that all-wheel drive, and it's almost like four-wheel drive. People told me that, but I never believed it. But it performs quite nicely. Now, so and there's no rust on it. The body is plastic. And the other thing, I guess, when I investigated these, Chevy had the model, the original year they brought out, it had a junk General Motors engine in it that would just not work. And it wouldn't hold up, it was flying apart. So, on the 2007, 2006, they put the Honda engines as replacement. Now, there are people saying that these V6 Honda engines, that if you don't overheat them and you keep the oil change, you can get 300,000 miles on them. So, another thing, lemons turning into lemonade. I'm sitting there with two cars I put a lot of money into, and they decided to blow up. Bad trans, bad flywheel. But then I find this Geo, not Geo, I keep calling him Geo, this Saturn, and I mean, $900. Well, where can you get a deal like that? And then Mrs. Spagnati's son, Chris Spagnati, her two sons, and brother Cody, they found a Ford Ranger down in Wisconsin with a rebuilt engine on it. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about Ford Rangers, but they're really sought after as a really reliable, trouble-free vehicle. So, yesterday started had a rough day. It was raining, it was cold. I wanted to burn some wood before I started plowing snow so I wouldn't end up hitting the wood pile. And I spent an hour out there trying to get this pile burned. But it was frozen and it was wet. So, and I'm thinking to myself, you're such a dumb guy that you can't even start a fire. Remember that guy in that book, To Build a Fire, where the guy his stupidity cost him his life. He went and he built a fire underneath a tree, under the tree limbs, and with his last match. And, that was that guy. Jack London wrote that book, short story. The guy builds a beautiful fire with his last match. I think he got his matches wet, but he had a spare one, some spare matches. And finally, in the freezing cold, he builds this roaring fire, and he's happy because he's going to save himself. He's not going to freeze through the night, freeze to death through the night. And then, as he's pleased in how smart he was, and the fire's roaring, he builds it underneath the tree, and as the heat goes up to the branches, the snow melts, and There's nothing you can do about it. You can't just run over and move a fire while it's hot. And it comes down there and it ends up, the dripping snow ends up extinguishing the fire, and the guy ends up freezing death because he has no warmth. And that's like, I always liked that story. Um, Jack London, he was a great writer. Man against man, man against himself, man against nature. And sometimes I think to myself, you're a pretty dumb guy. I mean, you can't figure out how to do a fire. And it reminded me of that Jack London story. But anyway, so I got a nice car. I got 2 nice cars now. And I'm thinking, you can never win. Finally, you get the 2 nice vehicles. And for who? I'm not going to be able to use them because I'm going to be dead. So I'm putting all this money and fixing stuff up. And for what? I got those reliable snow plows, the snow blowers, the snow plows. I was always using like Craftsman junk when I first moved here, trying to put that, bandage everything and trying to figure rig everything out. And they were belt-driven snow blowers, and up here you have to have drive shafts because the snow is too substantial. Constantly throwing belts and constantly spending 5 times the time you should trying to get something done as simple as snow blowing because you don't have the right equipment. Well, why doesn't a guy have the right equipment? Because it's quite expensive, Those John Deere tractors are anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 to $10,000, $27,000 depending. Luckily I found some good used equipment that I could, pay $5,000-$6,000 for with the implements and get the job done. So I guess, I had this one tractor there that I worked on it for a year and a half. Everything was wrong. Every time I thought I got it right, then it wouldn't start. So finally, after a year and a half, same thing. This tractor has started reliably for 50 times. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I finally got this thing to run right. And I am going to die. And some guy is going to come over to Maureen and, try to chisel her down to a half or a third of what it's worth after I got all my blood, sweat, and tears in it. So all these kind of crazy thoughts were going through my mind last night. And I went to bed early. And I had a rough night's sleep. A lot of crazy things are going on in my throat. A lot of excessive mucus and salivation. What is that? Salivation. What's the word? Salivation going on in my throat. And very discomforted. Pillow was real wet. And I woke up this morning and I couldn't believe it. The tumor substantially decreased in size. I'm thinking, what the heck happened here? So, I kept hoping. I wish, too bad this thing wasn't like a pimple, where a guy could just grab this tumor and squeeze it and get all that pus or whatever the heck's in there, and you'd be okay. The biggest worry is being suffocated by that swollen tumor. So I wake up this morning, I jump up, I look at the mirror, and it's like the thing's going away. Now, I may be exaggerating, but it feels like it's half the size. Now, those 2 oncologists, those old guys, one guy was from Britain, one guy was from Australia. They were like guys in their 60s and 70s. They were guys that were, like real doctors, were like scientists. They weren't in it for the money. And they told you that if you they're big believers in ivermectin. They're believers in the pen, uh, that fentanzyl, and they really believe that because pharmaceuticals like Merck can't make any money on the ivermectin because the patent, I think, went out in what 20 what was it in 1993, I think, and they had they couldn't renew it because they already renewed it, so they couldn't make any money on it. So they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to advertise it. They don't want to do the test. It costs $20 million to do a double-blind placebo FDA test. But these other guys, these oncologists said, that's a shame because there are people suffering that don't have money that could probably cure their own cancer. And not only will the pharmaceutical companies not put the good news out, but they actually stifle it. And as we saw during COVID, there were doctors, top research doctors, that were being threatened with losing their license and being deprived as scholars and academics because they were recommending the ivermectin. Once again, I don't have to say it up. Ivermectin to me is a miracle drug. Even if I die and I'm not cured from this cancer, it made the symptoms. The nurse, she keeps saying, I can't believe you don't have any pain. Now, she said it's highly unusual that a guy in your state isn't racked with pain. And I attribute it to the ivermectin. My throat was sore at first until I started taking ivermectin. My throat was clogged at first until I started taking ivermectin. So, I'm not making any money on this. I'm not a phony kind of guy. I don't like to BS people. Ivermectin is for real. And especially to all those of you out there who have no prognosis of curing, and you're given a death sentence, you got nothing to lose. Remember we spoke of the allegory. You got a guy with a pistol through your forehead, and it's cocked, and you're sitting there ruminating. Should I or should I not try to disarm him? Well, of course, no brainer. Of course you should try to disarm him because you got nothing to lose. Worst thing is he's going to shoot you in the head, right? Or the best thing is that you can disarm him. So it's no nonsense. It's no baloney. It's for real. So I'm thinking now, wouldn't this be something if I can beat this? And I told my wife, the biggest concern is that damn tumor. Because when that tumor keeps growing inward, which it originally was, the nurse told me it's going to come over there and it's going to cover your esophagus and your, where the air goes through, and you're going to suffocate. And there's nobody can do about it. Nobody's going to be able to help you. Nobody's going to do surgery. You're just going to suffocate. And I thought, oh, that doesn't sound very promising, Although she said, at that time, we will be there to assist you and make you feel. And she said, you won't even know what's happening to you. But maybe this ivermectin and this fentanzyl will save me. You guys are probably getting tired of hearing all this, right? But, you got to spread the good news, especially when people deliberately try to hide it, like the pharmaceutical companies. They want you to go for the chemo and where they burn you up with that. I can't remember. They give you chemo, radiation. Hey, while I'm here, I just wanted to show you. Here's one of the when you come up to Copper Island, you get out of the car, and I'm going to show you my little beauty here, that with the Honda engine in it. This thing is a 2007 and has lived up here where winter begins in mid-November and doesn't end till April 15th. Notice no rust. No rust anywhere. Why? Why is there no rust? Because the car is made out of plastic. Plastic. It's a wonderful little car. And actually, I can't believe I got such a good value on it. And then I look at people like my daughter, who went out and paid like 80 grand for one of those Cadillac. It's like a Chevy, you know, the kind that the president drives around, like a Tahoe. I think it's called a Cadillac Escalade or something like that. 80 grand for it, and she came up here, and I'm riding around in this $80,000 car, and I swear to God, I can't tell the difference between riding around in that $80,000 car or the $900 Saturn I've got. So what does that tell you? Same comfort level, same noise. You know, it wasn't like same muffled noises. But anyway, here's where Mary practiced. This is beautiful here in the woods in a place called the Meek. It's in a residential neighborhood. And the kids come out here, and they got a little warming house here, a skating house. And they just put a lot of money in this place. They got the new walls. And they're starting to get advertising, too. See these pictures? They never had that before. They spent a lot of money improving this. And here's where you come in and put your change. And it looks like something, again, out of a movie, Hollywood movie, out here at night when it's snowing. And you got all kinds of kids out here laughing and playing. And here's you can't see in her. But anyway, all around, pleasant experience. Okay, but yeah, I went over my time. Thanks. Bye-bye.